Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Fox News Now. The impeachment hearing has wrapped for the day, and we are on to general news now. News of the day, news from across the country. We're starting right here in the Valley. This is Glendale, Arizona, 67th Avenue and Bell Road, where you can see there has been a partial roof collapse at a gas station. A lot of people wondering, hey, it looks like the ground's pretty saturated. That is true because we've had plenty of rain, hail, winds blowing across the valley today. We've been seeing a lot of weather activity lately here. What's normally called the Valley of the Sun has been the Valley of Clouds and stuff falling out of the sky. Both snow, rain, hail, all of it, not just both. When and if I get any new info, I'll bring it to you right here on Fox News Now. If you happen to miss any of the coverage today, House Judiciary Committee impeachment hearing, just head on over to our main YouTube page, youtube.com/Fox10Phoenix. You can get all the clips there and even the full coverage. That stream almost 11 hours long. Again, this is Fox News Now. Looks like that's a 76 gas station. Friendly reminder, sometimes this happens. The Sky Fox live picture comes in and out. Going to stay with it for just a few more moments. You can see a little flooded area there in the gas station, at least on their property. It looks like you can still see some hail on the ground as well. All right, everyone, so here's a clearer picture since Skyfox keeps cutting in and out of the weather conditions in the valley. You can definitely see the roadways are still wet out there, even though it's not still raining. Still some cloud coverage in the area, though, and it is rush hour, seeing that it's 5:07 here, so lots of people with their headlights on this evening while they are heading home after a long work day. Busy start to the week, Monday, December 9th already. We are just 2 weeks and 2 days away from Christmas for those who celebrate it. It's hard to believe 2019 is already coming to an end and a new decade is going to begin soon. I have some top stories from across the country ready to show ya, and then we'll see what else we might get into. Remember, Fox News Now is your source, your destination for all live breaking news coverage. If it's happening, if we've got a camera there, you know, you can find it right here on Fox News Now. Checking my audio levels, you can probably hear me clicking around the News Now set just a bit. Let's start with a little feel-good story. It's about a Christmas tree giveaway.
This one? All right, so that's the one we're gonna get.
It didn't take long for the Shantz family to find exactly what they were looking for at the Montgomery County Fire Department Saturday morning. Not only the perfect tree to bring home for the holidays, it's the first one for this family of 5.
The kids have always wanted a real Christmas tree, but we couldn't really afford it, so this is actually a blessing.
I like it that we get to have a tree and celebrate the holiday so everybody can get together and just be family.
Mission accomplished by Serve Pro Manayunk in Norristown in its 4th year of giving away the trees that they purchased on their own. They set it up like any shop where you could purchase a Christmas tree. The thing is, their customers don't pay.
It's a time of giving, you know, it's a special time of year. We have lights and stands for them too, so it's a full turnkey. They walk away with a full Christmas tree setup.
Owner Brian Turpin says the Norristown School District Superintendent gathered a list of 100 students who could benefit from a free tree. Then the Montgomery County Fire and Norristown Police Departments reached out to them. The families show up to get the full holiday experience, visit with Santa, and warm up inside with cookies, candy canes, and hot chocolate.
For the holiday season, I don't know what to say. I really wouldn't have got one without this, so I appreciate it a lot.
A lot of people take holidays for granted. It's always materialistic, who has the most, when really, you know, it's just about getting together, helping each other out, and actually keeping the spirit going.
The Shantz family with a powerful message about what the holidays are really about, one we could all learn from.
Being together with everybody. I don't really care about the presents. I just like being together.
In Norristown, Kelly Rule, Fox 29 News.
Adorable little boy there. All right, looks like Phoenix is not the only place it's raining. This is a live look at Times Square in New York City. They are also getting rainfall on their live camera. No doubt plenty of people out there doing some holiday shopping, possibly grabbing those souvenirs to take home to family and friends after visiting such an iconic tourist destination. Well, this next top story I have for you is in regards to tips for safe holiday shopping.
Just focus on not always leaving out late. Try more so daytime shopping if possible.
This is just one of the several things Venice Antoine recommends for fellow holiday shoppers this season. She, along with thousands at the North Lake Mall, are getting ready for the holiday, and shopping is a must.
Some years I start early. I do a lot of online shopping, but mostly I'm like a 3 weeks prior kind of person.
In addition to more security patrolling the malls and camera gadgets like these in shopping center parking lots, CMPD provides this list for those who plan to hit the stores this season. Number 1, park and walk in well-lit areas. Walk with confidence. Be aware of the people around you. Always lock your car doors after leaving or entering your car. Have your keys in your hand and don't leave packages on the car seats.
When I walk out, I never have my phone out. I'm always paying attention, and I'm always with somebody, so I don't have to be alone.
I speed walk real quickly. Of course, I am looking around my surroundings, but speed walking.
A lot of good tips there. How many of you are already done with your shopping? Let me know. Hey, this camera is making it look like it is also raining at the White House in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. What's the weather like where you are living? Let me know on the YouTube chat. And look at those flags on the top of the White House, blowing in some strong winds there. All right, continuing on with our top stories, I think I have 5 more to go for you all, at least in this little segment. This next one is about a new device hoping to track seizures. A lot of people suffer from seizures. Hopefully this can offer some sort of relief.
Predicting the exact moment when someone with epilepsy will have a seizure is almost impossible.
One of the biggest problems with epilepsy is its unpredictability. You don't know if tonight's the night you can go out with your friends because you may have a seizure.
But that could all change with a new device being made in Utah.
The holy grail of epilepsy is being able to predict when you're going to have your next seizure. And so we want to create an hourly forecast of your probability of having a seizure.
Mark Lemkula, the CEO of Epitel, says his company made a fully functional device called Epilogue that works alongside an app to read brainwaves. Epilogue is worn on the forehead or behind the ear. It connects to a phone or a tablet through Bluetooth and sends seizure reports to an app. Doctors can use the data to adjust the patient's treatment and lifestyle schedule.
We want to give people the power of knowing how many seizures they're having so that they can plan their day with certainty.
Now, this new technology and this new device have the potential to change a lot of lives, but it does have a few hurdles to overcome first. Epilogue needs to undergo clinical trials and be approved by the FDA first. Right now it's being tested at the University of Colorado, Boston Children's Hospital, and the NYU Langone Medical Center.
I think there are a couple of limitations at this point. I think the Epilogue device is a great first step. Obviously, like all technology, it'd be better if it was smaller, had longer battery life.
In the current model that's being tested, the battery lasts 60 days, but Lemkula says he wants to make it last longer and be able to charge wirelessly.
If you had a device that told you, looks like you're all clear for the next several hours, that will hopefully give somebody a lot more independence and comfort.
Jordan Hogan, Fox 13 News, Utah.
All right, everybody, here's a different vantage point live of the Valley, Phoenix metro area. Gorgeous sunset, depending on where you're at. This is the Loop 101 at Hayden. Again, plenty of vehicles on the roadways. 514 here in the Valley, a lot of people heading home from work. If you're looking for all of your weather coverage, you can find it by going to fox10phoenix.com. We are also in our 5 o'clock show right now on Fox 10. You can also find weather coverage on Fox 10 Extra News at 7, Channel 45, Cable 9. Some of it will be featuring myself with some viewer-related videos. If you have not yet and you live here in Arizona, you captured something pretty cool, whether it was rain or wind or hail, clouds even, lightning, feel free to send it to us on social media. You never know when you could be featured on one of our shows. This next top story I have for you, Road to Recovery offering free rides to cancer treatments.
At cancer diagnosis, whatever stage it's at and whatever you have is certainly, you kind of hit rock bottom.
Shirley Delahunt has fought the disease twice, with her husband Tom firmly by her side.
It brought us closer together.
He was always there to drive her to countless cancer treatments.
I saw my wife going through what she went through, and I know how much it is of a problem in terms of timing.
Now the two are avid volunteers for the American Cancer Society's Road to Recovery program. It's a free service helping local patients who don't have a ride or can't drive themselves.
Volunteers donate their time and their front passenger seat to a cancer patient to help them get to the treatment that they need.
Shirley helps arrange transportation. Tom serves as a driver, picking patients up from their homes and dropping them off at the hospital.
You can see how much people need the help.
Lori Bertrand says there's an urgent need for volunteer drivers in our area.
The more volunteers that we can get on board and trained, the more lives that we can impact.
Tom and Shirley Delahunt are motivated to impact lives.
It's such a wonderful cause, and it's so needed, and it's worked out well for me.
Hoping more can help those in need of a lift.
It's been very meaningful because the people do appreciate it.
Head back whenever you want.
Another vantage point, live picture. Seems like I'm saying vantage point a lot this evening. I have no idea why, everybody. Pilar Arias here with you this Monday evening. 5:16 here in Phoenix, Arizona. It means it's 7:16 there in New York. And yes, you can see it's raining here as well. I have been to New York twice in my life. I lived there once for a whole month in the summer of, I believe it was 2011. And visited this year as well, not for nearly as long, but I have never been there during the holidays. It is definitely a goal of mine. You can see all the tourists and locals alike enjoying the sights and the sounds of the holiday season. Very busy traffic there as well. Fox News headquarters camera right across from Radio City Music Hall. If you're out and about in any weather event, please stay safe. 3 more top stories ready to go for you. This next one is about questions raised over that UPS shootout. You remember the violent ending to the police chase that we had last week on News Now?
It's a nightmare. It's a bad dream that I hope to wake up from and see him here.
A South Florida family demanding answers after a fatal shootout with police left their loved one dead. On Thursday, UPS driver Frank Ordonez's truck was hijacked by 2 robbery suspects in Coral Gables. The suspects led police on a chase that ended at a busy intersection in rush hour traffic and ended with a shootout with police, leading to the deaths of the 27-year-old UPS driver and a 70-year-old bystander, Richard Cutshaw of Miramar. The FBI has identified the suspects as Lamar Alexander and Ronnie Jerome Hill. Both also died in the shootout.
Probably he talked to them, I told him, you guys can stop this and, get out. But the way the police handled the situation, it was a nightmare.
The family of the UPS driver says law enforcement should have figured out another way to handle the situation.
Where was the SWAT team that normally handles all the hostage situations? Where was the long sniper? Where was the hostage negotiator? They came in full force.
Police say it was the suspects who are responsible for the outcome.
These officers are showing courage, moving toward danger. And that's what we have to be looking at here. And the outcome of this was dictated by 2 violent felons that decided to bring this on this community.
The Ordonez family is planning on holding a funeral for Ordonez early this week. In Los Angeles, Christina Coleman, Fox News.
Plenty of action today on Capitol Hill with the impeachment hearing process. If you happen to miss any of it, don't you worry. Just head on over to our main YouTube page, youtube.com/Fox10Phoenix, or search for Fox 10 Phoenix, FOX10 PHOENIX. You can find all of our coverage there. Just me and Mike Page today, but we did our best to clip all of the tidbits that we thought you might want to see. So check them out when you get some time, and like them, share them, comment on them. We'd appreciate it. Continuing on with some top stories. A man was arrested after a 9-year-old girl in his care was shot. Let's get the details.
Dustin Matthew Adkins in Brevard County Court this morning, the judge saying he stays behind bars for now. Adkins sitting with his head down in court, then standing to answer the judge for his alleged role in the shooting of a 9-year-old girl.
Mr. Adkins, I don't know if you have any questions or anything you want to say. If you do, please talk to the attorney first before you tell me anything. Is there anything you want to share today?
The judge making his decision.
I did find probable causes to each of those charges. Based upon the nature of the offenses and the history presented and the companion violation of probation case, I am going to order no bond on each and every one of those charges.
On Saturday, deputies say Adkins and several children were shooting at targets in the woods. At one point, they say Adkins left the kids unsupervised with the loaded guns, and a 9-year-old girl was accidentally shot by one of her siblings. After that, deputies say Adkins tried to hide the guns and drove the wounded girl to the hospital himself.
This is definitely an unusual case because you've got a juvenile that's been shot, and instead of notifying police to call 911, they immediately went to the hospital.
This all happening in the woods near State Road 407. Adkins is charged with aggravated child neglect, violation of felony probation, and possession of a firearm and ammunition by a convicted felon. He's already on probation for the manslaughter death of a child. Adkins' manslaughter conviction comes from a case in 2011 where he accidentally shot and killed a 13-year-old girl he was babysitting. In Brevard County, Matt Trezza, Fox 35 News.
It's rush hour here in Phoenix, Arizona. Not quite showing off as the Valley of the Sun lately. A lot of weather activity. If you're on the roadways, please stay safe out there, everyone. I like to, every chance I can, start and end the top story segments with some lighter, happier news, feel good news. This next story I have for you, the last one in this segment. It's about the Bear Hug Project delivering stuffed animals to children in the hospital.
Hundreds of bears are being stuffed and named with love at Build-A-Bear in Mayfair Mall.
They're here, they're stuffing these bags, stuffing the bears
just helping out for a good cause.
The Bears soon will be giving a bear hug to kids stuck in the hospital during the holidays. The goal?
Smiles. That's what I want to know, that those kids had smiles.
I'll get a big smile and a bear hug.
Noel Shesso is the CEO for what's called the Bear Hug Project. The bears hit close to home for him as he was in the hospital for a year as a kid when he was gifted a puppet.
It was all I had to play with for the time that I was there and my parents weren't there.
The project has donated thousands of bears to kids in local hospitals, every volunteer looking forward to this day. And while volunteers hand stuff a heart in every bear, it's the hearts of every sick kid they hope to reach.
We do a lot of different functions throughout the year and have different events, but this is what it's all about.
Donating just $10 will send one bear to a child in the hospital. We have all of that information on our website. Just head to fox6now.com. Reporting in Wauwatosa, Christina Van Zelst, Fox 6 News.
All right, everyone, remember, we can get both traffic and weather together when we take a look at a picture such as this, and that's what we're doing right now on Fox News Now. If any news breaks across the country, we will have you covered. Thanks so much for being here, everyone.
Good afternoon. The Secretary General this morning spoke at the high-level pledging conference of the UN Central Emergency Response Fund, otherwise known as the CERF, which he called the most effective investment that can be made in humanitarian action. He noted that the pace of crises has been relentless in 2019, with CERF having supported people in 44 countries this year, from Yemen to Afghanistan to Colombia. The Secretary General said that CERF is the only global emergency fund that is fast, predictable, and flexible enough to reach tens of millions of people each year. It also provides funding without the bureaucracy that can slow down our work, so the money is available within days, sometimes hours of disaster striking. He also said the fund has helped to sustain relief operations in long-running crises to avoid gaps in critical services for the most vulnerable people when funding levels are low. The Secretary General said he was grateful for the generosity of 127 member states and observers, as well as other donors who have contributed to the CERF. In addition, 52 member states have received CERF funding, have also contributed to the fund, making it truly a fund for all, by all. The General Assembly has set a $1 billion yearly funding target for the CERF, and the fund provided a record $200 million into 21 crises last year. His remarks have been shared with you. Related to the CERF, Mark Lowcock, the Emergency Relief Coordinator, has set aside some $2.6 million from the Emergency Fund to support the response to the measles outbreak in Samoa and other countries in the Pacific. The funds will be used for emergency vaccination, obstetrics, and neonatal care for mothers and newborns infected with measles, mental health and psychosocial support, as well as water, sanitation, and hygiene assistance for about 1.25 million people. More information online. The Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed is in Amman today, where she is meeting with senior government authorities, the UN country team, regional representatives, and other entities part of the UN system. On Saturday, she was in Qatar, where she spoke at the Doha International Conference on Disability and Development. She said that 80% of the estimated 1 billion persons with disabilities worldwide live in developing countries and are among the more marginalized in any crisis-affected community, with the disaster mortality rate more than double that of the general population. She noted that this past June, the Secretary General launched the first ever UN Disability Inclusion Strategy, a framework for action by the UN system. The strategies are a commitment to persons with disabilities, she said, establishing the foundation for the systemic and sustainable change we need. She also spoke on Saturday with leading women of Qatar on women's empowerment and gender equality. She said that gender equality is the challenge of our lifetime and of this generation. Her remarks are online. And after her meetings in Amman, Deputy Secretary General will fly to Aswan in Egypt to attend the Aswan Forum on Sustainable Peace and Development. She will also meet with participating senior government officials. On Thursday, she will be in London with senior officials and other stakeholders around the decade of action to deliver the sustainable goals by 2030. She will be back in New York on Sunday. And turning to Baghdad, the special representative of the Secretary General for Iraq, Janine Hennis-Plasschaert, met yesterday with Iraqi President Barham Salih and discussed the current political and security developments in the country. Over the weekend, she said she condemned in the strongest terms the shooting of unarmed protesters in central Baghdad that took place on Friday night, which left a high number of deaths and injuries among citizens. She said the deliberate killing of innocent unarmed protesters by armed individuals is nothing less than an atrocity against the people of Iraq, and that the perpetrators must be identified and brought to justice without delay. The special representative urged the Iraqi armed forces to spare no effort to protect peaceful protesters from violence by armed elements operating outside of state control. She calls on peaceful protesters to cooperate constructively to ensure peaceful protests can be duly protected. Turning to Syria, some 4 million people in need across northern Syria are supported by the UN cross-border humanitarian assistance mechanism, including 2.7 million people in the northwest who rely solely on those operations for life-saving assistance. Since 2014, the UN has sent nearly 30,000 trucks of humanitarian assistance across 4 border crossings named in the Security Council Resolution 2165. Nearly 2,000 trucks have passed through those crossings in October and November. More people are being reached than ever before. In November alone, the UN provided 1.1 million people with food through cross-border deliveries, double the amount that was in January of 2019. The operation from Turkey has grown by more than 40% since the time last year due to the increase in humanitarian needs. Life-saving assistance, such as medicine, is sent from Iraq into northeast Syria, providing assistance that cannot otherwise reach people in those areas. The cross-border operations in Syria is one of the most closely scrutinized aid delivery systems in the world today, and we continue to take every step possible to ensure that the operation meets the highest standards of accountability. And as you recall, we told you last week that following attacks in the Congo against civilians and Ebola responders, we have decided to send Lieutenant General Carlos Alberto dos Santos Cruz of Brazil to the country. He will be traveling to the DRC tomorrow. There he will assess the ability of peacekeeping force to effectively deliver the mandate to protect civilians in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and to neutralize armed groups in North Kivu and Ituri province. He's expected to submit an internal report to the head of UN peacekeeping by early January. And Ursula Mueller, the Deputy Emergency Relief Coordinator, is arriving in Niger today, where she will be until the 14th of December to assess humanitarian situation on the ground and the needed response. Ms. Mueller is scheduled to meet with the President of Niger, the Prime Minister, and other senior government officials. She will also meet with NGOs and the UN country team. Ms. Mueller will travel to Difa, Maradi, and Tillaberi to meet impacted people and to assess emergency relief operations to address the needs of more than 218,000 refugees and 187,000 internally displaced people. An estimated 2.9 people in Niger will need humanitarian assistance in 2020. The UN and our humanitarian partners aims to assist 1.8 million people in the next year. That's an increase from 1.6 of last year. The financial requirements to meet the urgent needs in 2020 is $407 million. And also on the humanitarian front, higher than average water temperatures in the Indian Ocean have led to unreasonably heavy rainfall in East Africa. Burundi is one of the countries most affected. In the night of the 4th to 5th of December, 27 people were killed, 9 people disappeared, and 10 were injured, and over 240 households were impacted by torrential rains and landslides on at least a dozen hills in Nyepundu, located in the country's northwest province of Cibitoke. An assessment team led by the UN Office of Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs was able to access these hard-to-reach affected areas to evaluate the damage. The UN will continue to work with government and local municipalities for the emergency response. And from South Sudan, our peacekeeping colleagues tell us that fresh outbreak of clashes between communities and others fighting over the weekend has led to civilians being killed and displaced in the center and north of the country. The head of the UN mission in South Sudan, David Shear, said he's worried that the clashes are taking place in areas that have been relatively calm for months. He added that the parties to South Sudan have respected the ceasefire signed in 2018, but that these intercommunal incidents raise tensions and increase the risk of sparking even more violence. Mr. Shear said the shortage of food and access to basic services has put huge pressure on communities, with recent flooding having destroyed crops and pastures. The UN mission is working with both local and national authorities to try to resolve the disputes and will continue to support reconciliation and peace-building efforts. Today, the UN Development Program launched its 2019 Human Development Report on Inequality. The report is entitled Beyond Income, Beyond Average, Beyond Today, and identifies new generations of inequalities that are increasingly determined to people's opportunities in the 21st century, driving the global protests sweeping the world. The report finds that just as the gap in basic standards is narrowing for millions of people, the necessities to thrive has evolved, and what used to be a nice-to-haves, like access to broadband or university, have become increasingly important key to success. But without access to these, many people are finding their path to prosperity is blocked. It also talks about new inequalities rising around technology and climate change. The report is online. 2 days to focus on today. Today is International Anti-Corruption Day. In a message released, the Secretary General recalls that every year, trillions of dollars, or the equivalent of more than 5% of global gross domestic product, are paid in bribes or stolen through corrupt practices that seriously undermine the rule of law and abet crimes such as the illicit trafficking of people, drugs, and arms. He urges all member states to unite against corruption, to stop the drain on resources caused by illicit financial flows. The UN Convention Against Corruption, ratified by nearly every country in the world, gives the means to strengthen our commitment to addressing the issues, he adds. And also today is the International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and the Prevention of Genocide. In a tweet, the Secretary General said that the Holocaust did not start with the gas chamber and that genocides in Rwanda and Cambodia did not start with mass killings. Those, he said, started with discrimination and hate speech. In an event that took place this morning, the UN Chef de Cabinet, Maria-Luisa Viotti, said that on behalf of the Secretary General on this day, we remember and pay tribute to the victims of horrendous crimes of genocide. We also reflect on what more we can do to uphold the responsibilities set out in the Genocide Convention. Those remarks are available to you, and I was asked about the Secretary General's own reaction to Brazil's decision last week to recognize Venezuelan asylum seekers as refugees. I can say that the Secretary General welcomes and thanks Brazil for this decision. As a former High Commissioner for Refugees, he knows full well the important impact that this will have on those Venezuelans, not least by increasing protection access to vital services. Voilà. Edie.
Thank you, Steph. On SURF, are you going to be putting out a final tally of how much?
Yes,
this pledging?
We hope to do that. We're talking to our humanitarian colleagues.
And that will be later today?
Inshallah. Yes, Maggie.
2 questions, Steph. First, any update on UN assistance to Albania on the earthquake?
Not that I have.
Okay. And secondly, over the weekend, North Korea did some sort of, in their words, very significant test at a satellite launch site. Does the Secretary General have any reaction to that? And also to their UN ambassador's comments that denuclearization is off the table and that they don't need talks with Washington?
I mean, our reaction is really a reiteration of our stated principles, that we reiterate the Secretary General's call on the leadership of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea to work for peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula and resume working-level talks with the United States. Diplomatic engagement is the only pathway to sustainable peace and complete and verifiable denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. Halas. Okay. Hasta mañana. We need to up the energy level today. We're all a little still groggy from
We have what we like to call a triple box right here on Fox News Now on the left-hand side of your screen. That is traffic and weather conditions here in the Valley, the Phoenix metro area. I believe this Arizona Department of Transportation ADOT for short cameras at the Loop 101 in Guadalupe. Top right-hand side of your screen, that is rain in Times Square, New York City, and bottom right-hand side of your screen, that also appears to be rain in Washington, D.C. Hope you all are having a safe and cozy evening wherever you are. Coming up next here on News Now, everybody, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton spoke tonight at the Jewish Labor Committee's annual Human Rights Awards dinner. It's coming up in just moments right here on News Now.
Everybody. Good evening, good evening. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, it's a real delight for me to be here with you and the Jewish Labor Committee on this occasion of the annual Human Rights Awards dinner. I was delighted when Stu asked me if I could come. Of course, I've learned over these 30 years of knowing him that when Stu Applebaum asks you to do something, just get to yes. You're going to get there eventually. It's impossible to say no. He literally called me from the middle of his honeymoon. So I said yes, and I said it's your wedding present, so here I am. And it is a real treat for me to be with so many friends in the labor movement, men and women with whom I had the great joy and pleasure of working. And I want to congratulate all of this year's Human Rights Award recipients. It is imperative that we recognize that just as we've honored human rights in the past, tomorrow is the anniversary of the Human Rights Declaration, the Declaration of Human Rights passed by the United Nations, largely because of the efforts of another great New Yorker, Eleanor Roosevelt, that we will never, ever back away from human rights. So I'm here to just say thank you. To say thank you for the work you have done and are doing and will do. And as the awards are given out tonight to these very worthy honorees, it should be not just a moment to thank them, but also to be challenged about what more we need to do. I happen to believe that the labor movement is even more relevant today than it was just a few years ago. Unions don't just fight for your members, you fight for all working families, and nobody knows better than unions how to stand up to a bully. And we've got a bunch of them around these days. And so therefore, we need all of you to be even more determined to fight for the rights and the opportunities of working families. It's especially important that we stand up for the most vulnerable among us, the children, the elderly, people with disabilities, the immigrants, the oppressed, everyone who needs a voice, who doesn't have one on his or her own. We've never seen such cruelty and contempt for the values that we pledge allegiance to, that we see embodied in our Constitution, that we have fought to make a more perfect union over all of these years together. And the current administration, I don't need to tell you, has been conducting a concerted attack on the rule of law, on the importance of our government and the services that it provides for people. They've attacked journalists and the freedom of the press. In effect, they're waging a war on democracy. And by doing so, they're creating so much distraction, diversion, and confusion that a lot of Americans are trying to figure out what's going on. And that's where all of you come in. You've got to remind people that this administration has tried to rip away health care for millions, to end coverage for people with pre-existing conditions, to take food stamps away from people who have no other opportunity to make sure they and their families are going to be able to survive. They've given tax cuts to the wealthiest few, and they've paid for them on the backs of working families and children. They've gutted funding for public schools and universities and would like to do even more if we let them get away with it. They've ripped families apart. You know, I happen to believe you need a secure border and a humane immigration system. And I don't think those two are in contradiction. That's what we should be working toward. And there's no excuse for the mistreatment of children that we've seen being done in our names. You know, children have been dying in custody. And children have been taken away from their families, about 50,000 of them now, and some will never be reunited. Now, there's a decent way to run an immigration system, and then there's the Trump way. And we need to get back to running a decent immigration system that provides safe conditions for people. You know that we've seen the gutting of protections for workers, just totally open season on organizing. Your jobs have gotten tougher, but so have you. You know, this organization has rallied to help save affordable health care. You've spoken out on behalf of dreamers and immigrants and refugees. You've marched in the fight for a $15 minimum wage. You have stood up for the right to bargain collectively. And despite the Supreme Court decision in Janus, unions aren't going anywhere. And along the way, you have fought for civil rights and women's rights and human rights and so much more. You know, as Stu likes to remind us, the Jewish Labor Committee has always been on the front lines in the struggle for justice. Back in August of 1963, more than 200,000 Americans gathered at the Lincoln Memorial for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Many Jewish organizations took part in that march, but none brought more people than the Jewish Labor Committee. And really, at the heart of it all is the concept of tikkun olam, which says that repairing the world is the responsibility of each and every one of us. Or as I learned growing up in the Methodist Church, do all the good you can for all the people you can, in all the ways you can, as long as ever you can. There's that thread running through all of the great religions, and particularly the Judeo-Christian tradition of caring for the vulnerable, the stranger, the foreigner, standing up for justice and equity and freedom and fairness. You know, one of my favorite books is called The Return of the Prodigal Son, which was written by a Dutch priest named Henry Nouwen. And he talks about practicing the discipline of gratitude. In other words, it's up to us to make the choice to be grateful even when things aren't going well. And it's not enough to be grateful for the good things. That's easy. We've got to be grateful for the hard things too, because they will make us stronger. That's the period we find ourselves in right now in our country. You know, it would be easy to walk away and say, I can't deal with this. You know, I can't tell fact from fiction. You know, I don't want to live in an alternative reality. I'm checking out. Well, that's what the other side wants us to do, my friends. They want us to just throw our hands up in despair and walk away saying somebody else is going to have to continue the fight. I can't do it any longer. Well, that's not what this organization was created for. It's not what it's done, and it's not what every union and every union member represented in this audience tonight believes. But people have to be given courage, and the way we get courage is by seeing it in others. My daughter and I just wrote a book called The Book of Gutsy Women, and in it, we look at the stories of women who overcame incredible obstacles, who persevered despite all of the struggles. Just to name two, Frances Perkins, one of the great American women, another New Yorker, who pioneered so many of the labor changes when she was director of labor in New York State, when Franklin Roosevelt was governor, then went on to be the first woman in any cabinet when she served FDR as the Secretary of Labor, fighting for unions, fighting for fair and safe working conditions, taking on all kinds of powerful forces. Another is Dolores Huerta, who along with Cesar Chavez created the Farm Workers Union. And she was on the front lines of bargaining collectively so that farm workers had decent working conditions, sanitation in the fields, a possible path toward both citizenship and a better future for their own children. And boy, did she face some tough fights. She was in the front of demonstrations and protests. She was in a demonstration in San Francisco in the 1970s when she got beaten up by a police officer, severely injured, had to bring a lawsuit, was able to not only recover compensation because of the way she'd been treated, because she was in a nonviolent civil disobedience protest, but she also was able to change some of the behaviors of the police force in San Francisco. These are just two of the women that inspire me. When I get a little down, and it happens from time to time, not too often, but occasionally, I like to think about people in the past and the present who have just gotten up and said, I'm not going back. I'm going to go forward, and I'm going to make a positive difference, not just in my life, but in the lives of so many others. So we all need to be, women and men alike, gutsy in this time, because it's not going to be easy. I'll tell you, we're going to have a tough election in 2020. It shouldn't be. Anybody with eyes to see and ears to hear should already be convinced, right? But it's going to be a tough election, and you need to bring your organizing skills, your shared sense of values, your feeling of empathy and compassion and caring, your deep conviction about justice, because we're going to need every single person in this fight. So enjoy this holiday season, and then come the new year, let's get to work and make sure that we get our country back. Thank you all very much.
Everybody, I just remembered that President Trump had a meeting today at the White House in regards to school choice. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you the exact name of the meeting here in just moments, and I do believe I have that recorded for you, ready to show you here on News Now. Let's see here. Roundtable discussion on empowering families with education freedom. President Trump roundtable from today. Don't forget, everybody, I am preparing for Fox 10 Extra News at 7, Channel 45, Cable 9. We have less than 45 minutes to go until that show. So let me cue up this school choice for you. But matter of fact, I will start with President Trump's remarks on the IG report, and then we'll go into the school choice roundtable. Again, this is News Now. Thanks for being here. All right, everybody, apologies. It took me a while to actually cue up the beginning of President Trump's remarks. Again, this is earlier today at the White House.
I was just briefed on it, and it's a disgrace what's happened with respect to the things that were done to our country. It should never again happen to another president. It is incredible, far worse than I would have ever thought possible. And it's an embarrassment to our country. It's dishonest. It's everything that a lot of people thought it would be, except far worse. So I'm going to get some very detailed briefings, but they are. It's a very sad day when I see that. Very sad day when a lot of people see that. They had known nothing. It was concocted. And you say what you want. That was a probably something that's never happened in the history of our country. Pam Bondi, I think you were able to look at some of the report and can address a little bit of it very well. If you might say a few words, I'd like to ask Kellyanne. I know you looked at it also. Please.
Sure, President. You know, so many of us who are career law enforcement today are outraged. And I think the American people really should be terrified that this could happen to you when we're supposed to live in a society of integrity and honesty. And this happened to the president, not just to the president. You know, this should be a good day, but it's not. It's a horrible day for the country. That this could happen to the president of the United States, that they could fabricate, falsify emails, lie, and omit exculpatory evidence in order to continue this witch hunt against the President of the United States. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Now we have the Durham investigation.
Thank you very much. Kellyanne, please.
Mr. President, thank you. I was the campaign manager during that time, and I would ask a simple question. Why no defensive briefing? Why not contact the Trump campaign? Why not contact candidate Trump or Governor Pence or Governor Christie, who at the time was arranging for the intelligence briefings for candidate Trump and was a public servant, a government official at that time as governor of New Jersey with a full intelligence security clearance to receive that type of information. So you can't blame people for feeling that it was unfair and that the fix was in. And to think that perhaps people lied and spied and tried to subvert democracy just because they wanted someone else to win or just because they have a different political point of view. That is not the way the world's greatest democracy has been formed and can survive at a time such as this. I will just repeat something that Attorney General Barr said today, Mr. President, that this was an intrusive investigation of the U.S. presidential campaign on the thinnest of suspicions. And that is chilling language for any of us who want our government to work for us and not against us. I only wish they had come and informed us, Mr. President, and we could have had the knowledge and the wherewithal to act at that time and not put the taxpayers through 2+ protracted years of nonsense. Thank you, sir.
Well, they fabricated evidence and they lied to the courts and they did all sorts of things to have it go their way. And this was something that we can never allow to happen again. The report actually, and especially when you look into it and the details of the report, are far worse than anything I would have even imagined. What they were doing and what they would have done if I didn't make a certain move that was a very important move, because it would have been even worse if that's possible. And they might have been able to succeed. This was an overthrow of government. This was an attempted overthrow. And a lot of people were in on it, and they got caught. They got caught red-handed. And I look forward to the Durham report, which is coming out in the not-too-distant future. He's got his own information, which is this information plus. And it's an incredible thing that happened, and we're lucky we caught him. I think I'm going to put this down as one of our great achievements, because what we found and what we saw, never, ever should this happen again in our country. All right, with that, today we gathered to discuss the urgent national priority that we've been working on so long and so hard, expanding educational freedom through school choice so that every American child can get a great education. We're grateful to be joined by Vice President Mike Pence, Secretary Betsy DeVos, Senators Ted Cruz and Mike Lee, Representative Bradley Byrne, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Pennsylvania House Speaker Mike Turzai, Tennessee State Representative John DeBarry, and students, parents, and teachers from across the nation. Some wonderful, brilliant students are with us, and we're going to be having a big session in a little while. As president, I'm fighting every day for the forgotten American. We are looking past and we're proud of it. And I think when you look at the African American community in particular, they are the biggest beneficiaries of criminal justice reform. So we're honored to have helped. We passed the criminal justice reform and the legislation to target resources to distressed communities. Our economy is lifting up citizens of every background. You saw the new reports coming out on unemployment. They're the best in the world, best we've ever had. The best this country's ever had, historic records. We have the lowest unemployment in the history of our country for African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, and overall, we're just about going to break the all-time record. We're very close. But now is the time to fight for the forgotten child, and that's what we're doing with respect to education. For decades, countless children have been trapped in failing government schools. In my administration, these children are forgotten no longer. Just like I said I was going to do it for different groups of people, and we did it. We have the strongest economy probably in the history of our country. The numbers came out, as you saw on Friday, with a number of jobs that nobody believed possible. Well over 200,000. They were thinking about 50. Some people thought it would be 50,000, 60,000. You saw how badly Canada did. We had 266,000. Canada had an unbelievable period and is going through something, and yet we are right there, and the whole world is not doing well, and we're doing phenomenally well. We're doing better than, we're the hottest economy in the world. We're doing great, and frankly, it's hard to believe we could even do better, but if the world were doing better, we'd do better. That's the way it's set up. We've made tremendous progress in the last 3 years, far greater than anyone thought possible. So we have the hottest economy in the world by far, nobody close. If you look at Europe, if you look at Asia, China's having a very hard time. We're doing well with China in our trade deal, but they're having a tremendously difficult time, the worst time they've had in at least 57. That was 57 2 weeks ago. Now it's much more than that number of years, 57 years, and yet we do record-breaking numbers, so that's great. We broke the stock market record. I believe it's 132 times during the course of less than 3 years as President Ted, so that's something. And by the way, you were great on television this weekend. I admired that you did a fantastic job. Everyone's talking about it in a very positive way too, so congratulations. Yeah, he's a hater. He's definitely a hater. That came out loud and clear. Congratulations. Lawmakers in 44 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico have empowered some parents to choose a better future for their children, for their child. But school choice, wait lists are growing, and sadly, not everyone wants to give these students the education and freedom that they deserve. They're locked into a school system that's terrible, and we're working on that very hard. Betsy's working on it full time. About 30 hours a day, I guess, Betsy, right? That's what she does. But school choice wait lists are growing, and that's a credible factor. Everyone wants school choice, and we have certain groups that are very powerfully against that, but we're breaking through very strongly. This year, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf denied 50,000 kids the promise of a better school. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, on the other hand, got 14,000 Florida students off of the wait lists. They're really great. The wait lists were just ridiculous, and still are. I mean, they're still very long. That's where they want to go, Ron, I guess, right? So congratulations to Ron DeSantis of Florida. We believe that every parent should have educational freedom for their children. Earlier this year, I asked Congress to pass a federal tax credit to support state-based scholarship programs so we can provide over 1 million more students with school choice. People want school choice. They want to have their child go to a school that they want to have the child go to. It's very simple. I look forward to hearing from each of you today. We're going to be discussing a lot of the things that have happened in the last couple of years, some great successes, and we're in the process of getting more. Education's a very tough subject because it's been ground in, and whether it works or doesn't work, the areas that don't work, people seem to want to come at a certain group of people, and it's a very powerful group of people. They want it to stay that way. We don't want it to stay that way. Worldwide, we're probably ranked about 36, and yet we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world, far more per pupil. And we should be at the top of the list, not mired down toward the middle and even worse than that. So I'd like to ask Mike Pence to say a few words, and we're going to go around the table and we'll have a discussion. Thank you. Mike?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your leadership on education. It was one of the very first conversations that we had when you considered me for the position that I now hold. And you expressed to me then, in the summer of 2016, your belief that it ought to be parents that choose where their children go to school. I want to join you in thanking Governor DeSantis for his leadership, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and the leadership represented by Senator Cruz, Senator Lee, and especially to be able to welcome the students, parents, and teachers who are here with us at your invitation to talk about how we advance your agenda. As you mentioned, Mr. President, when I was governor of the state of Indiana, I was proud to be home, as Governor DeSantis is, to a state that's been expanding educational choice for students for decades. And just like Governor DeSantis has done, back when I was governor of the state of Indiana, we increased the enrollment in our voucher program from 4,000 to 32,000. We actually expanded school choice for pre-K for several thousand disadvantaged children. The American people deserve to know that this is a president who's been putting taxpayer resources to work to expand educational choice for disadvantaged families. We already expanded the 521 college savings accounts to let parents use those resources for K-12 education. And Mr. President, participation in the DC voucher program, which has been a historic program that's changed lives, changed our nation's capital, is already up by more than 50%. But today we really look forward to hearing from the Secretary and all of those gathered here about your proposal for a $5 billion Education Freedom Scholarship Program, as you said, which would, we believe, expand educational choice opportunities to more than 1 million students around America. We really believe the key to success for any child is a good education, and we believe that parents are best equipped to choose what is the best education for their children. So, Mr. President, again, thank you for your passion for educational choice. I want to thank the Secretary, but most especially, I want to thank the leaders and the parents and the students and the teachers that are gathered here for this important discussion.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mike. Excellent job. Mike Lee, would you like to say a few words to your feelings on education?
The Joint Economic Committee, which I chair, is releasing a report tomorrow on educational pluralism. Educational pluralism is a fancy word for a simple concept, which is that we ought to give more people more options in the area of K through 12 public education, and do so rather than having a monopolistic system, one that dictates to parents based on the neighborhood in which they live, where their child may and may not go to school. We can do better as a country by giving parents more options. Families thrive when parents are given options as to where they should send their child to school. Now, ordinarily, these are decisions that have to be made at the state and local level. Most K through 12 public education is. There are a few areas at the margins where the federal government can make a difference. Sometimes it involves lifting federal restrictions, and that's why I appreciate you having this meeting here today, Mr. President. The fact that you're willing to ask questions that haven't been asked in a long time is going to open the door for more Americans to get out of poverty and to climb into the middle class. That's what our country is about, and that's why I'm so glad that you're supportive of school choice and educational pluralism.
Thank you, Mike, very much.
Okay. Mr. President, I want to thank you for your leadership on education, and in particular school choice. You've already signed into law the most significant federal school choice legislation that's ever passed in the history of our country. And that was, the Vice President referred to it, that was expanding College 529 plans so that parents can use them for K through 12 education. I introduced that amendment in the Senate. It was during the tax cut fight. It was 50-50 on the floor of the Senate. The Vice President came down at 1 in the morning to cast the tie-breaking vote on groundbreaking legislation that made a difference for 50 million kids. This next step, and I've been proud to work with Secretary DeVos. Secretary DeVos is doing an amazing job. She is a courageous and principled education secretary. But I've been proud to work hand in hand with her on legislation that would provide $100 billion in federal tax credits over 10 years for K through 12 education and for workforce development. If and when we pass this, this will be the most significant federal civil rights victory of modern times. This is all about millions of kids, millions of inner city kids, millions of African American kids, millions of Hispanic kids trapped right now, desperate for hope, and giving them scholarships. And it is only the corrupt bureaucracy that is telling them no, and you are fighting, the men and women around this table are fighting to give every one of those kids a shot at the American dream. This is also about adults, about union members, about men and women out of work, giving them workforce development and apprenticeship so that they can get good, high-paying jobs and provide for their family. There is nothing on the domestic front that I believe will have a longer-lasting legacy in your presidency than if and when we get this done together. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Great job, Ted. Thank you very much. Betsy?
Mr. President, we know that education freedom works. I'm so grateful for your leadership on this issue. I'm also grateful to the other elected leadership here that is taking this issue on in the states. To the Vice President for his leadership in Indiana and now with you. I would love to hear from some of the students and the parents who are here, and would suggest that we do that and start with Tara and Sam Meyer.
Great. Please.
Thank you so much, Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, and all you elected officials for your support on education freedom. Our family in particular, specifically with my son Samuel, we were able to have a big part in the passage of the John Peterson Special Needs Scholarship in the state of Ohio, made a complete difference in the life of Samuel and our family, and not only that, but in a tremendous number of families in our state. When Samuel was born, I was told not to have any high expectations for his life. And I said, well, that's really something. He's just an infant. I waited to send him to school until his sister could attend with him. And when I got to school, they said, there's no need to be in a rush. Why don't you go home and take a 6.5-hour break? And we have all the way until he graduates to teach him how to read. And I said, that is completely unacceptable. I tried volunteering and trying to get things done, and finally the fight was too big. And I went up and I said, why would you not want to do this? And they said, maybe you should try somewhere else. And so I did. I took that on as a personal challenge. And there were options in the state of Ohio starting to emerge, but there weren't any for children like Sam with special needs. And he was the forgotten child. And I thought, simply because of that need, you know what? He still has a purpose and a hope and a future in our community. And so Sam, being a very motivated individual, we took on that front as a family, and we started lobbying at the state level and got the John Peterson Special Needs Scholarship passed. And Sam was one of the first individuals to take part in that. Yeah. And it's amazing what was able to happen. We were able to take part in starting a program, a functional learning program in our community, and there are hundreds of students that have benefited. And I just want to say thank you for helping with that fight. Teachers are being held hostage, in my opinion, in the public system by not being able to give the opportunities that they could give with the resources that are available, simply because unions are grasping and holding on tight to those funds. And that was one of my main platforms when I was trying to get things passed for children like Sam, is saying we should be allowed to make those choices. We, the parents, we know the children better than anyone else. And given that opportunity and those resources, we've been able to make a better education. Sam, would you like to share a little bit about your experience?
So, President, thanks for on the school choice, and I'm going to ask a question about. I am Samuel Myers, and I am 25 years old. School choice helped my dreams come true, and I have a job in my community. I volunteer and I do things with my friends and family because of the skills I learned. My school helped me learn best. I was to fit in. I made many friends because a part of my community. My school and teachers helped me learn new skills and become the best I can be. I am thankful for the school and my choice, and thanks for the president. Thank you for the and to fight the thanks for to sharing by me my stories. Thank you so much in my heart.
Well, I'll tell you what, that was beautifully done and beautifully said. That was a fantastic job. Thank you very much, Samuel. Appreciate it. That's beautiful. Ron DeSantis, you've done a fantastic job with Florida, and I know Rick was very much into it, and now you've taken over, and what a job you've done. Could you give us a little clue how to get it done on a large basis, very large basis?
Sure, and as a newly minted Florida resident, I think you'll appreciate I think we are the #1 state for school choice. We have almost 120,000 students on scholarship programs for low-income families. We have a tax credit scholarship and then a new family empowerment scholarship that I was able to sign into law. And that is primarily single moms who are working hard, but they just don't have the resources to be able to send their kids to the best fit. It is 70% are African American and Hispanic who are in this. And the demand keeps growing because it's work. But we also have programs, a scholarship program. Almost 30,000 students in Florida are on McKay scholarships, which are for students with disabilities. And then we have almost 12,000 students on, we call them Gardner scholarships. That's for students with special needs, so things like autism. We have 1,000 students on Hope scholarships, which are scholarships that we created for students who are being bullied and are not being treated well in the school that they're zoned for. They have an opportunity to get in a better environment. And we have over 300,000 students in charter schools, which are public schools, but they're just not run by the school district. They're run by other operators. And here's an interesting stat. I just asked my education commissioner to give me something interesting coming up here. If you take all those 300,000 students in Florida, and it's 69% minority, 50+% Title I. But if you take all of those charters and made that its own state for rankings on the nation's report card, the NAEP scores, Florida charters would rank #5 in the nation on the NAEP scores if they were its own state. So that's pretty significant. And then on our scholarship programs, particularly the need-based, if you're on the program for 4 years or more, you're 40% more likely to graduate from college than somebody who's similarly situated. And so the results have been good there. But I think the thing that gets lost is the results have also been good for our school district. So for example, Miami-Dade County is the #1 performing large school district in the country. 70% of the kids in Miami-Dade County do not go to the school that they were zoned for. And that's a combination of private schools choice, public charters, but they've also really embraced magnet programs and all these other things. So you have a big, diverse, all these languages being spoken, and yet the achievement has been better than other districts in the country. And then the final thing I'll say is, what school choice has done, and as a businessman you'll appreciate it, it's given an opportunity for entrepreneurship. What we find happening is teachers who are in particularly inner city, they're public school teachers, and they go through this and they're very experienced. They say, you know what? If I could make 3 or 4 changes, we could get better results, but I can't because of the bureaucracy. So they start their own private schools, and because we have the scholarship program, they know that they can make it work because obviously their market would not have enough income to be able to do it. So it's allowed for these educational entrepreneurs to come and really do some great things in the state of Florida. So I think as a Florida resident, you should be proud of the stuff going on there, and obviously want to keep the momentum going.
And we're also very proud. Florida had the best year economically it's ever had, which is history. And Okeechobee, as you know, a lot of money put into Okeechobee and the Okeechobee Dam and all other aspects of it. And that's now on its way to being fixed finally after many, many decades of wanting to do it. And we've also spent a lot of money in the Everglades, and they've done a fantastic job in the Everglades. But you've had the best economic year you've ever had, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. Walter, how about saying a few words?
Absolutely. Well, first off, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, thank you so much for having me here. Secretary DeVos, thank you for your leadership on this particular issue. I always say that each and every one of you at this table fought for me before you even knew me, and you're continuing to fight for millions of kids across the country. But we talk about the school-to-prison pipeline, and that is a very real thing, especially I'm from Ohio, growing up in Columbus. I saw it, I lived it. While some of my friends were going to sleep to lullabies, I was going to sleep to gunshots. And so my education was my way out of that. My family didn't have a lot. They couldn't really give me everything that I needed or wanted, but my education was my ticket out of that lifestyle. And so there were people that I grew up with that are either in prison now or 6 feet under in the grave. And the only difference is I had a way out. My education allowed me to get out of that situation, and it opened me up to so much more than what I could even understand at that time. If you told fourth grader Walter that he'd be sitting next to the president speaking on a topic that he's passionate about and that it changed his life, he wouldn't believe me. My parents, even to this day, would not have believed of the unlimited opportunity and potential that I've had because of my education journey. And so that's my story in a nutshell, but Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, everyone around this table, Senator Cruz, Representative Byrne, leading this charge, thank you so much. To say that it means a lot is an understatement. This changed my life. And for people in my neighborhood, it's not, maybe he'll get a good education, maybe he won't. No, this is life or death. And because of the work that each and every one of you have done, I am here today. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
What a beautiful job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great job. Wow. Man, how good was that? So, Brianna, how about a few words?
Sure. My name is Brianna Gilchrist, and so thank you so much for having me here today, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. Thank you, Secretary DeVos, and everyone around the table for all your advocacy and the work that you've done. Similar to Walter, I would not be here had it not been for the people around this table doing the work that they do. I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey. I'm the product of a charter school, and my charter school literally saved my life and my family. I remember when my mom first told me that I was transferring from our regular district school to a charter school, I was very upset because I didn't want to go to a school and wear a uniform. I did not want to wake up early. I didn't want to do the extra work. I just wanted, basically to just go to school and have fun. And when my mother put me into a school that was intentional in its approach with all of us, it wasn't just about me going to school. It was a school that was created for the community, by the community, to empower the community. And that school literally wrapped its arms around myself, my sisters. My sister went to a charter school. Now she's in the Air Force. We're the first people in our family to graduate from college, which has literally changed our life. And just to bring it a little full circle, one of my friends who was originally in charter school with me, who transferred out, she didn't even make it to her 24th birthday. She was swallowed up by our community, and not in a good way, because she didn't have the community in her school to really be there for her. And so I'm so thankful for my charter school and for all the people here who have done the work to allow more charter schools to open and more educational scholarships to be open. Thank you so much.
Great story. Thank you very much.
Myself.
Sure.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Miles Slade Bowers. I am a current student at Bishop McDevitt High School, one of the best schools in my home state of Pennsylvania. I would just like to take a moment to thank leaders within the Trump administration and those such as Mike Torzai for their continuous work in advancing tax credit scholarship programs like the one that allows me to attend my school, with their work and their continued dedication and their devotion. School choice opens up doors that would otherwise be slammed shut. Just speaking as a perspective as a young African-American male in a low-income neighborhood, it's more likely that I would be a dropout of high school or even in prison at this very moment than speaking before you out like all of you at this moment, just discussing the importance of education freedom for all children, despite zip code, despite background, despite race. And I believe that in conjunction with with school choice nationwide, available for all people, and also decisive and intentional investments into education reform, that we will see true change in our nation, that it will be just more than just one moment in life where it worked out for a few years, that this could be a true pillar and change. It could be the true foundations and the layering, and I believe that all American children, again, are deserve a fair chance at education equality. And I just want to really thank you for your time and allowing me to speak.
What do you want to do after education? What do you want to do?
After my education, I plan to attend Penn State, one of the premier colleges in our state, and I want to pursue or study biology and minor in microbiology and biochemistry, and hopefully move on to med school and become a practicing psychiatrist.
Wow, that's good. I could use you. That's great. Great job.
Thank you.
Brianna, what do you want to do?
Well, I'm actually here based in D.C. I work in education reform.
That's good. And you love it, right?
I love it. I love being able to advocate for students like myself.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. Samuel, what about you? What do you want to do? You're out there now and you're doing well. What do you have planned?
My plan is I was in here from White House for I got many things at and new skills and I need a business coffee cart and like helping the coffee for the people.
Very good. That's great. That's great ambition. That's fantastic. That's good. Thanks, Samuel. Beautiful job. Thank you very much. So, Walter, what do you have planned?
I'm coming for the White House.
I can So, Denisha, how are you? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And it's been long since the joint address, so I'm pleased to be here. And thanks for hearing our stories. This is a very pressing issue, and I thank you for your assertive leadership and the need to ensure that more students have access to success like we have. My name is Denisha Merriweather, and where I come from, I behold depleted buildings, lack of community resources, decadence, and poor public schools. I failed the third grade twice, attending my Duval County public schools. It wasn't until I received the scholarship to attend a private school that my life really changed for the better. Thanks to education freedom, I became the first in my family to receive a high school diploma and then a master's degree. I now exercise school choice for my 17-year-old sister to ensure that she receives a high school diploma. I want to personally thank my own Governor DeSantis for empowering more students in the state of Florida. Thank you. This year, more students have clearly asked for more demand with almost 18,000 low-income students wanting the new scholarship. But the work is not done. I know that all of you here at the table will continue to fight so that every student has the opportunity to receive a great education. Across this country, too many children are having adverse childhood experiences in school, and that's just wrong. The proposed legislation can definitely help. All students deserve the freedom to choose. Action is required. Thank you so much for listening to our stories, and thank you for your action.
Great job. Great job. Thank you very much. And Bradley, how about you've had a lot of experience in exactly what we're doing. You've seen it all different ways. What do you think?
Mr. President, well, thank you for your courage, because we're all arrayed against some very powerful forces out there. To step out on this like you have, like the Secretary has, means a lot. There are 85 sponsors for this piece of legislation in the House, myself and 84 others, and it's growing because we're seeing your courage as an example to the rest of us to do the same thing. Now, why would we do that? We would do that if you come from a state like Alabama that's new to school choice, and like Florida, we're just beginning to see it. The Secretary and I got to tour the first charter school in Alabama a year and a half ago, and we met students that this was their last chance. They were high school students, and if this didn't work, they were done. Our newest charter school in Alabama is in Sumter County, very rural county. This is the first time I'm told that they've had integrated schools in that county in 30 years. Quality brought people together.
All right, News Nowers, it's Pilar Arias here. I just want to cut in really quickly and let you know in a few moments I will be going live on Fox 10 Extra News at 7. That's channel 45, cable 9. Now, they do need to see me on camera on standby prior to taking me live on television. That means I'm purposely sitting here, not saying anything, preparing to go live on television. We will continue listening to the rest of this as soon as my live hit is over. So thanks for your patience and understanding. Also, thank you for watching Fox News Now. There's currently 1,558 of you here.
Dream, but your dream for the American economy, we have to do this. So those 85 are just 85 of us today, but with the Secretary's help, we're going to continue to grow that. We're going to get every Republican on this bill and start working on Democrats as well, because this issue should be a Democrat issue or a Republican issue. It should be an American issue, because in America, we don't take opportunity away from people. We give it to them. Thank you for your leadership on this.
Great job. Thank you. Betsy, go ahead, please.
Mr. President, I was just going to suggest that you may call on State Representative John DeBerry over here, because I think he has some experience from the opposite perspective, party perspective.
Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, Secretary DeVos, I appreciate being here, and I appreciate the fact that you're going to shepherd this things through that we've been talking about so many years. And as we put a face on this with these young folks sitting around the table who've already spoken, too often the kids get lost, there are data, there are statistics, there are numbers, but they put a face on it. I've heard many times when we've talked about school choice over the years that we're going to cherry pick and you're going to get the best students and things of this sort. My answer has always been, then let's put more cherries on the tree. And the fact of the matter is, if we cherry pick a young man who can prepare himself one day to come to the White House, or young men and women who can go to medical school, these
Again, everyone, I'm preparing to go live. There's only about 12 minutes or so of that left, 15 minutes. I'll resume it as soon as my live hit's over. Remember, everyone, you can watch the whole show at fox10phoenix.com/live. All right, everyone, we're in Christy Siefkin's weather, and I'm right after her, so I'm on standby. Absolutely, Mark and Christina. Christy said it best. We love seeing these pictures and videos, so please don't stop sending them in. This time, what made it unique, pretty much everybody let Mother Nature, whether it's actually, you know, the weather or animals, do the talking. That means there's no, like, human interaction in these videos. Let's take a listen to this first one. Yeah, this is off of Alma School in Warner. Noel Cryer sending this one in. The dogs just enjoying the rain, trying to get some captures in their mouths there of the rainwater, you know, because it's healthy for drinking, right? This next one, rule in the US 60, bye-bye recycle bin. It's floating down the street there. This video sent to us by Clint Brunke. Thanks so much for that. This next one we've got for you. Joseph Escarcega in Scottsdale sending us this one. Yeah, you can definitely hear the hail there hitting the windshield and all the other windows on his car. It came down today where Jennifer Kane was. This is in North Phoenix. And then one more. This one's in Cave Creek. Let's listen in. That video sent to us by Junior Montoya. I just love all of these because it just shows off how beautiful the valley in Arizona really is. Remember, it's not too late. If you have pictures or video, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just send them in. You never know when they might make them on air. Fox News Now streams live news coverage from across the country all day. A link is on our website, fox10phoenix.com. All right, News Nowers, I'm going to take you back to that President Trump roundtable from earlier today on education reform, school choice.
Come to the White House, or young men and women who can go to medical school. These kids will be left out because everybody cherry picks. Every medical school, every law school, every university, they go for the best and the brightest. What we've got to do is make sure they are among the best and the brightest, and that's why I support education choice. When the young man spoke about many of his colleagues, Mr. President, the schoolhouse to jailhouse pipeline is wide open. Thank God for criminal justice reform that's possibly going to help some of these folks. Hopefully, we can interdict with education to keep them from going. And before I stop, my eldest daughter is an attorney, passed the bar the first time. When she was in the 2nd grade, she was going to a school, neighborhood school that she was assigned to. She came home with a note on her jacket one day. And my wife, who is deceased now, but she was in the 2nd grade, we went to the school. My wife said, "What's this about?" The teacher said, "Your child can't read." And my wife said, "Well, that's funny. She could read when I sent her to you." And what we realized was that school was not living up to what we expected for our child. I asked that my child be transferred from that class. They said no. I asked that she be transferred from that school. They said no. I went that same day. I got a second job. I put her in a private school, and we paid tuition because she was my responsibility. Parents want the right to make that choice for their children. They don't want anybody else to make that choice for them. They pay taxes. Many of them are veterans. They paid for homes. They've worked hard. They just want to say, I want my kid to go to this school because I want them on a par with everybody else. I thank you so much again for what you've done. I hope you will continue until this gets passed.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, distinguished roundtable attendees. I am Christina Pryor. I'm a native Washingtonian. I am a product of the District of Columbia Public School System, having graduated from the Teaching Professions Academy at Coolidge High School here in DC. I am the daughter of a retired DCPS educator, and I am also a former educator who is a parent of 2 wonderful boys, both of whom have earned need-based and merit-based scholarships. and they've been educated in DCPS and the private school settings. During his academic career, our eldest son, Jeremy, earned the St. Ignatius Loyola Award presented by then Attorney General, Mr. Eric Holder. Having graduated from college in May, he is now working in public relations. And after our youngest son's school closed, his public charter school closed just this past year, our youngest son, Jaden, is currently excelling in private school. Through the years, I continue to see educators doing phenomenal work in the classroom. Whether it's public, private, or otherwise, our children deserve to be educated in safe, loving, nurturing, and cultivating environments that are conducive to learning and growing and that produce results. But having access to excellent education is the key. Education freedom means to me that as our children's very first teachers, parents have the power and choice to set them up for a lifetime of success. Since every child is unique, there is no one cookie cutter formula that works best for every person. But children, our children, certainly deserve access to any and all excellent educational experiences available. Scholarship opportunities certainly open those doors, and the keys to those doors should be accessible to all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Virginia. Thank you very much. I'm Lieutenant Governor of Texas, and somebody that's very much involved in education. Done a fantastic job. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. A lot of us have been on this road a long time for homeschool, school choice, charter schools, and to have your bold leadership on this issue of the Vice President's means a lot to us. When I get weary in a fight and the opposition is strong, all I have to do is be inspired by Miles and Walt and Sam.
Do you get weary? I don't think you get weary.
Well, no.
I've never seen you weary. I've seen a lot of fights, but I've never seen
But
you
you never quit, because what you realize, and these parents and these students realize, you cannot live the American dream without a quality job. And you can't have a quality job without a quality education. And when you deny a child an education, you take their entire life away from them. They never have a chance to recover. And as been said, when you cut that pipeline from the schoolhouse to the jailhouse, that will be the biggest prison reform bill we have all ever passed. And we've joined you in that. As you know, we have led on that in Texas. And in Texas, we have a robust charter program. We build them as fast as we can. We still have 150,000 parents. It seems like always in line because they want that opportunity. And it's not to say we don't have some great quality public schools. We do. But not every school is an A school. And every child and every parent deserves an A school. One of the things that Florida has done, and we've done in Texas, is we now grade every public school district and every public school A through F. We grade the schools like they grade our kids. And as you know, Governor, it's just made a tremendous difference in creating competition and awareness of parents saying, wait a minute, I thought my school was good, but it was only a C. I don't want my kid going to a C school. So it is the civil rights issue of our time, as Brooke says, and thank you for being bold on this. You know, in Texas, we have 6 million kids. That's more kids in school than 32 states have people. So we're a big system, and we're with you on this, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you very much, Dan.
The future of the country depends on our success on this.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to say something? Please.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, and Secretary DeVos for your leadership on this very important issue. I'm Rebecca Friedrichs, 28-year California public school teacher. I served as lead plaintiff in Friedrichs versus California Teachers Association, which led to freedom from forced unionism for all government employees in the United States. I'm also founder of For Kids and Country. America's great teachers support school choice because we believe in putting the children first. But self-serving unions infiltrated our profession, and they pour hundreds of millions of our dues money into defeating choice. Unions claim to speak for teachers, but I'm here today to tell you they do not. The union I was forced to fund brought great damage to my own students, my profession, my own sons, and ongoing harm to my niece, Nicole. Nicole has a seizure disorder, and even with special education support, she was earning D's and F's in public school and was severely depressed. We found an amazing charter school for Nicole where teachers and children were empowered. Nicole's grades soared to A's and B's, and her self-worth skyrocketed too. But the status quo closed her high-performing school. Now Nicole is back to D's and F's, and she'll once again tell me this Christmas that she's dumb. And I'll do all I can, again, to tell her that she's brilliant and beautiful. But tragically, she won't believe me, because her report card and the unions get the final word. Well, America's great teachers have had enough. These abuses and thousands more are why we sued CTA and NEA for freedom from forced unionism. The Obama administration and California leadership intervened against us. The unions labeled us the spawns of Satan. But 10 courageous teachers stood in defense of children and our beloved profession. We were poised to win, but Justice Scalia's death led to a tragic deadlock in our case. But we blazed the trail for another case, and thanks to you, President Trump, and your appointment of Justice Gorsuch, all teachers are now freed from forced unionism. Amazingly, we won on my birthday. But unions still have a stronghold. They've harshly bullied great teachers for decades. They've silenced our voices, and they are chasing many great teachers right out of the classroom. So I am here today to give voice to great teachers. America's great teachers believe that parents and teachers must be empowered to work together. All children should receive an outstanding education in a safe school of their family's choice. Unions masquerading as teachers will fight education freedom tooth and nail. You can count on it. But Mr. President, America's great teachers stand with you and Secretary DeVos for education freedom for every student. Thank you.
Great story.
Mr. President, thank you very much. I'm very honored. I'm the Speaker of the House in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And to you and to Secretary DeVos, thank you for leading on educational freedom. It's interesting, a lot of times the other side likes to paint it as not enough public money going to public schools. I'm going to use Miles Public School District in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, our capital city. We spend well over $20,000 per student in that particular school district. It's over twice the national average. Yet the performance rates, despite the fact that that school district has been in receivership a number of times, 7.1% proficiency in algebra, 9.3% proficiency in biology, and 13.6% proficiency in English. The mayor of Harrisburg, the state representative who represents a particular community, each of them sends their children to private schools. Why wouldn't everybody have that opportunity if they wanted to have that decision? We see the opportunity of school choice as being a way that one size does not fit all, and parents and grandparents and guardians can make those decisions, like Jocelyn, whose Miles' mom made that decision. We think that an infused educational improvement tax credit program, we put one on the governor's desk with an escalator. We already have the program in place. We have continued to increase it. We kind of leveraged opportunities to increase it, but we really went big. He vetoed it. It was a mistake. 50,000 students on wait lists who are not able now to take advantage of these particular scholarships. We're going to continue to pursue that endeavor. But the proposal that you, the Secretary, Senator Cruz, is putting on the table, where you're going to work hand in hand with state tax credit scholarships, is going to provide so many opportunities for so many students all across the United States. And we truly support your work. We're going to continue to work strong in our state, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you very much, Mike, and you're doing a great job. And our state's doing a great job. One of our wonderful states are doing really well, the Commonwealth, as we say, and really good. How are things going? How economically, records?
Mr. President, the lowest unemployment rate in recorded time, thanks to the great work you're doing. And I will say our Republican majorities in the state House and Senate have certainly been along a similar message as you and the Vice President. But without a doubt, you are bringing manufacturing opportunities and energy growth opportunities and energy independence to the great state of Pennsylvania. You were down in Beaver County in the western part of the state.
Right.
6,500 skilled trades folks are building a petrochemical facility on a brownfield site, and both national and state policy are moving in the right direction. Our revenues, Mr. President, thanks to your tax cuts, your regulatory reform, our revenues on the statewide level without increasing any taxes, like the governor wanted, without increasing any taxes, grew by 6.4%. We haven't seen that kind of growth in a very long period of time. Without a doubt, your leadership is making that happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And you have more good news because your steel industries, as you know, are
Yes,
doing very well.
correct. Yes,
Because of
steel-
tariffs, we taxed very heavily, we taxed the dumping of steel.
Correct.
And the steel companies are doing incredibly well. They were
U.S.
finished.
Steel just invested, or is about to invest $1 billion thanks
Yeah.
to your policies.
Yeah, no, they were ready to close up, all of them, and now they're doing great. It's one of the really incredible untold stories, the steel company. And we need our steel companies for defense, if nothing else, but we need our steel companies. So you've had some very good news in Pennsylvania. Thank you, Mike, very much.
Thank you for
I
having me.
appreciate it. So that's the story. We're working hard on education. Things are happening at a rapid rate like we haven't seen before. And Betsy, I want to thank you very much. Great job. And we'll get it done. This group will get it done. We have some fantastic representatives here, and you'll knock it out, Bradley. So good luck with everything, okay? Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, we are in the commercial break before I go live again on Fox 10 Extra News at 7, Channel 45, Cable 9. If you happen to miss any of the impeachment hearing today, I'm going to break it all down for you in just moments. All right, everyone, just got told I'm about a minute away from going live on the television. If you're not in Arizona, you don't have a TV, no problem. Just head over to fox10phoenix.com/live. Yes, I know I am live on YouTube, and yes, I'm not saying anything on purpose. But I am fixing my hair about 1,000,000 times. Welcome back to Fox 10 Extra News at 7. I'm Pilar Arias from the News Now set. The House Judiciary Committee held its second public impeachment hearing as it moves closer to drafting articles of impeachment. This all comes after allegations the president withheld U.S. military aid to Ukraine in exchange for a public investigation into his political rivals. Republicans say Democrats have wanted the president impeached since he took office. There were multiple heated exchanges between Republicans and committee chairman Jerry Nadler as the House Judiciary Committee questioned lawyers for Democrats and Republicans. Nadler denied Republican witness requests, including the initial whistleblower and House Intel Chairman Adam Schiff, whose committee sent over a 300-page report on the impeachment investigation. The committee could next begin drafting articles of impeachment, although they have not announced exactly which ones or how many they might draw up against the commander-in-chief.
The impeachment inquiry record is riddled with hearsay, presumptions, and speculation.
You almost never have a defendant or someone who's engaging in misconduct who would ever explicitly say, in this case, President Zelensky, I'm going to bribe you now. That's not the way these things work.
If you happen to miss any of the action on Capitol Hill today, you can find individual clips and our full coverage on our YouTube page. Fox News Now streams live news coverage from across the country all day. A link is on our website, fox10phoenix.com. All right, News Nowers, good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Mike will be here too. Christy's off all week. Take care.